All right. So, I am back from outer space. All right, guys. So I'm back for this week. Talk about some Age of Sigmar stuff. Been gone for a while. Um, Look like I might be doing this. Maybe, probably won't be doing this weekly. Maybe monthly. I don't know yet. I'm still working on things. So got some ideas I'm trying to work on. But today, well, let's see. Yesterday, we started getting the rules out for the new Iron Draw stuff. Slash Iron Bone Splitters slash the Great Wall with the Orc War Clan book. It's gonna be amazing. Um, Hopefully everybody can hear me just fine. That's out there. If not, well, we'll see. So let me finish eating this jelly bean. Jelly beans, yum yum yum. All right, so where to start off? Let's start off with something here. So I know everybody's been already deep down into this Orc War Clans faction focus from the DW page. Uh, explain how it works. They explain, how the Iron Jaws and all these abilities work and whatnot. I'm just gonna go through this real quick. Just we're gonna go in depth in some of this stuff. I actually watched the stream today and the battle report today. They were using the new rules. Typed, like, I followed the stream the whole way. Typed as much stuff as I could. There's some stuff that they talked about but did not show. But I've got the news for that stuff as well. So let's just dig into this. Pull up my little notepad here. Alright. So first things first, Iron Jaws. We'll talk about Iron Jaws. And I'm going to be bouncing with my notes. I'm going to be bouncing around some. Because the way I was taking notes and how they were explaining it, it's hard to like move things around when I know how they were talking about it. So I'm just going to keep as is. So we're going to talk about Iron Jaws. I am an Iron Jaws player. I have Bone Splitters as well. Orcs has been my fan favorite since I started playing them. Let's see here if I just scroll down just to here. I got my 2 Maw Crushers back here in front of me. I've got some other models in front of me as well. Let's go down just a little bit. And we'll go through it, and I'll pick up a model, and I'll show you, hey, this is what that model is, this is what this model, this is what the model they're talking about, in case you guys are new or whatnot. So, General's Handbook 2019, we're going to start with this, because this is where it all started. I mean, it started back in the day with the original book, and then the cards as well. I've got both data cards from Bone Splitters and the Iron Jaws, as well as there's books, plus all their General's Handbooks as well. With the new General's Handbook, of course, we've got, you've got your command abilities, Mighty Destroyer, you've got Smashing and Bashing, you've got your spells, you've got command traits, Artifacts of Power, and then also you've got 2 nice battalions that we paid for, Iron Suns and Bloodtooths. I really enjoyed Bloodtooths. A lot of people took Bloodtooths. It's one of the only 1-drop Iron Jaws. They're one of the few armies that had a 1-drop army done right. Iron Suns was great. Just not my cup of tea. I don't know how I wanted to make it work with the current meta, but it's a fun battalion to play with. But a lot of changes to all this. A lot of this is no longer exist. So, for instance, you got Iron Suns and Bloodtooth. They are going to be treated no longer as battalions. They will be like the Storm Hosts or the Sylvaneth's new abilities, where it's basically you pick, I'm going to be Bloodtooth or I'm going to be Iron Suns, and you get a bunch of abilities, command traits, artifacts, all kinds of stuff. So that's where it started, which is cool. You don't have to pay points for it anymore, but I'm just worried about the battalions now. Let's see what kind of battalions are in there, if they're anything worth the damn. I did like having a 1-drop army. It was quite nice. But one thing he did go into right after that was they're really excited for is mount traits. So Maw Crushers will have mount traits. He did talk about 2 of them that I wrote down while he was talking about it. One of them, it's like Louder War or something like that. Once per game, -1 to hit. So I don't know if that's -1 to hit on the Maw Crusher or the entire army. It was kind of vague on that. I'm pretty sure it's just on the mount and the model itself. And then they had another one which was the mount was like weird mount or something like that, and it gave them immune to magic on a 4-up, which is really cool. Like that's a nifty ability. I think that's a nice, really cool mount trait in my opinion. Yeah, these are all Maw Crushers. That's all they said. It was just Maw Crushers. They didn't talk about pigs. They didn't say anybody else was getting any other mount traits except for Maw Crushers. He was really excited about that too, which is cool. But not having any new models kind of hurts sometimes, and we'll see how this works. Then he goes into mad as hell. So I'm gonna bring this up. Scroll in a little bit here. I don't know how it looks on the screen. Let's see how. Okay, so mad as hell. At the end of the phase, any phase, at the end of any phase, shooting phase, hero phase, combat phase, charge phase, any phase, if any wounds or mortal wounds have been inflicted to in that phase on an Iron Jaws unit that has more than 9 inches from the enemy units, Iron Jaws units can move D6 inches. This is only for an Iron Jaws only army. That he did say that in the stream. You have to be Iron Jaws Allegiance to get this. And he says the damage does not have to come from the enemy models. It could be enemy spells. It could be your own spells. There are certain spells like Puke. Everybody was like talking about the Puke spell. And we'll just talk about it right now. So, the Grim Puke. Casting value of an 8. Draw a straight line 2d6 long from the mouth of the shaman. Each enemy unit crossed by the line suffers d3 mortal wounds. On the card it says enemy models. They were talking on stream. That is probably, the wordage has been changed so it just inflicts damage. Anything in line will probably inflict damage. But also endless spells. They will, if they inflict damage on that unit, they will get to move d6 inches. So cool little mechanic for Iron Jaws. You get hurt, you get to move any phase. I think it's pretty cool. Let's see here. That is the Allegiance ability. Mad as Hell is an Allegiance ability for Iron Jaws. The way, that's what he said, or a command trait, or I think it is. Let's see here. Let me make sure here. Battle trait comes in enemy. That's a battle trait, so it's basically a Legion's ability. So if you're an Iron Jaws only player, you're getting this. This is part of your army. You get hurt in any phase, you get to move d6 inches. As long as you're 9 inches away from enemy models. Pretty cool. Let's see here. Next, the Iron Sun's Cunning. Is that the next one? Okay. So unless it's a repeat, but they added some stuff when they were talking about this, and so Iron Sun's Cunning. Subtract 1 from the hit rolls for attacks made by enemy units that target Iron Sun's unit in the first battle round. Okay, the reason I want to bring this up, and he brought it up too, is the fact that Iron Sun's before. Let's just bring out the book and let's compare and contrast, won't we? Roll a dice after setup is complete, but before the battle begins, on a 2-up, subtract 1 from the hit rolls for attacks made by the enemy units in the first battle round. So you no longer have to roll. If you take Iron Suns as a sub-faction, you get this. You get for the first battle round, you get -1 to hit. So, be kind of interesting to see how that works out. I like how it's no longer a roll. You just get it because you take the battalion. Let's see here. Bonus splitters. Alright, we'll get to there in a second. Okay, so now they were talked about the Chappas. The Chappas is another sub-faction I think they were talking about. It's all about blue and like checkers. It's like their special colors, right? And they're led by a weird knob shaman. Is like the main guy that leads these guys, the Chappas, or whatever they are. And the shaman, I think he gets an artifact or he gets an ability or something, but it's called the Mega Skull Staff, and it makes him act like a mega boss when it comes to abilities and everything like that. So he becomes a mega boss when he has this piece of staff because he's acting like the mega boss of this certain sub faction, we want to call it, or sub house or whatever, sub clan. When they talked about that, I thought it was really, really, really cool. So next, let's talk about some rules now. Let's see. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Let's see. Let's do this. Okay, so I'm talking about this now instead of a little bit later because it's all mixed up and it's okay. So during the live game, Ben Bailey played his Iron Jaws with the new army and stuff like that. And so they showed his little way of how they created their armies, um, points, and some of the profiles. And so he was playing Iron Sun's Cunnin. So you get to subtract one from the attacks made by subtract one from the attacks made rolls for attacks made by enemy units that target a Lumba Cutten's unit in the first battle round. So he's running the Lumber Warclan Lumber Cuttas. The command ability is All Right and Get 'em. You get this command ability at the end of the enemy charge phase. If you do so, pick one friendly Iron Sun's unit that is within 12 inches of an enemy unit, wholly within 18 inches of friendly Lumber Cuttas heroes, and more than 3 inches from the enemy models that unit can attempt to charge. So you don't have to be, let's see here. I know, yeah, right, Orc Lumberjacks. It's great. So pick one friendly unit within 12 inches of the enemy unit, within 12 inches of the unit, wholly within 18 inches of a friendly. Okay, so that's kind of cool. Spend a command point, charge unit. Command trait, right fist of Dankbad. At the start of the first battle round, you receive one additional command point. So just because you're beating these guys, you get an additional command point. Let's see here. Artifact of Power. Hand O Big Tree. Pick one of the bear's pick bear's melee weapon once per battle. At the start of the combat phase, you can add 3 to the damage characteristics of the weapon until the end of that phase. So it's an artifact of power. Of course, you can't stick it on Gordrak, and we'll talk about him later. But I mean, that's pretty kind of cool. 3 to damage. I mean, think about. Let's see here. 3 damage on. Let's see. We'll just go on a regular orc mega boss. He's going to be 6 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, -1, and then that becomes 3 damage instead of 2. Not bad. Or you can put on your mega boss shaman, and his staff now becomes, instead of D3 damage, 3 damage. So it's kind of cool. Another artifact of power. It's Bright Armor. Worsen the rank characteristics of attacks that target the bearer by 1 to a minimum of nothing. So that is really cool. Mount trait gives you a +2 inches to your mount's move characteristic. Another mount trait, add 1 to the damage characteristic of this model's mighty fists and tails. Okay, so for the mounts and basically maw crushers. So before, I'm explaining this to some people. So you get a missile weapon, which is his roar. Then you had to pick a weapon loadout, which is 2 different weapons. So here's one of my riders. So he's got a hacka and a was that the scrape tooth? I think it is, or rip tooth fist or scrape tooth. Scrape tooth. That's right, scrape tooth. And so there's 2 different loadouts, which then you have 2 different attack profiles. And then the Maw Crusher himself, I got Mr. Red here. He would attack with his fists, or he would attack with his tail. So you would have to keep track, and if you're going to split attacks on all these mounts, you would have to split all these attacks and go, okay, 3 over here, 5 over here, 7 over here, let me roll my D3 and my tails, that's going over here. And so there's a lot of upkeep on one model. So what they did is they took everything and condensed it all. And what I mean by condensed it all, so the boss score Haka and the whatever other weapons they put in one profile. So it's no longer that and this. It's you have these weapons. Here's your profile. Probably more attacks. They did the same thing for the Maw Crusher fists and the tail. It's no longer 2 different profiles. It's all into one profile. So now you only have to worry about his roar attack, the war boss's attack, and then the dragon attack, and they're all pretty much streamlined. Big change they did too for the mounts is the shooting attack is still the same, except instead of 1 attack at D6 damage, it's 6 attacks at 1 damage. So it's no longer, oh, let me see if I roll my 2 up to hit. and then my 3 to wound, and then that's it. It's more like, let me roll my 6 dice and see, potentially do 6 damage, 1 each. I think it's a better mechanic instead of just 1 die, so touche to them. They fixed it, I think. I think it's a good fix. But Mighty Fists and Tails will get a +1 to damage, which is great. I just can't wait to see how they change the profile on the fist, because right now as it stands, it's 4 attacks, 2's to hit, 3's of wounds, -2 rend, 3 damage each. So, and the tail is D3 attacks, 4 to hit, 3 to wound, -1, 1. So if they wrap them all in together, it's going to be interesting to see how that fits in. Since we're talking about Maw Crusher, let's talk about the Destructive Bulk. Okay, so Destructive Bulk now doesn't hit on 4s anymore. It hits on 5s. As well, they don't know if this is on Gordrak or regular Maw Crusher. That's still to be determined. Is he will ignore cover saves for any models when he uses Destructive Bulk. So you don't get cover saves. He basically takes that away from you. Kind of cool. It kind of sucks now it's on a 5-up instead of a 4-up. I think 4-up was just right. I rarely seen, my average was maybe 4 mortal wounds. I had a couple 7s. Never got an 8. So I don't know. On a 5-up, kind of I don't know. We'll see. Alright, so those are the dragons. So let's talk about a guy I never used. Everybody else would challenge me on this, but on my personal opinion, this guy used to be 80 points. This is the War Chanter. 80 points. He gave a unit a +1 to hit. That's it. Cool. Now he's different. Way different. So he is now, I think he's 110 points now instead of 80. He's got some cool stuff he does. His innate ability now is he gives a unit a +1 to attack now instead of +1 to hit. That is really cool for the shaman. I think that's a little bit better. It's still not an aura or prayer. He just does it with how they set it. But then this is where it gets kind of cool. He's got War Beat. This is in the Iron Sun's ability. So get him beat. At the start of your charge phase, one model that knows the War Beat can use it. If they do so, roll a dice. On a 4-up, pick one friendly Lumbakutsa unit wholly within 12 inches of this War Chanter. In that phase, you can attempt to charge with that unit if it's within 18 inches of the enemy instead of 12 inches. Roll 3d6 instead of 2d6 when making the charge roll for that unit. So this guy went from to pretty amazing for a very fast-moving army. And he has other stuff that he's gonna do as well. But here's the thing. I'm not sure if that War Beat, get him beat, is for, I'm pretty sure it's just for Iron Suns though. So I think it's different per sub-faction you take. But we'll see. Iron Suns look pretty decent. He's not broken. Corn, broken. So, within this War Scroll Battalion, so they changed the way the Maw Crushers output damage. They changed the way Destructive Bulk works. They changed the way the War Chanter works in a way. They also changed how, what was the other one? Let me pull it up real quick. My other notes. Strength and Victory, I think it's called. So Strength and Victory, the first way it was, is the more fights a mega boss, so anytime a mega boss would kill somebody, or kill an enemy hero, you add 1 wound characteristic, and you would add attack characteristics for the weapon that inflicted the killing wound. That no longer applies. This goes to anybody. Let's see here. How do I word this? So it's once per turn, I believe. So if the model is slain another model in combat phase, after all the attacks are resolved, add 1 to the weapon's attacks and hit stats. So it's looking like one unit can do it. You know, you kill versus non-kill, whatever, how you want to talk about it, but it can't stack. I think it's just a one-time ability for that turn. So I can't wait to see how that works. You know, if my brutes kill something, then do they get that? You know, because that's kind of cool. But at the same time, does it work for the next turn? That's where it comes in effect. I don't know. Let's see here. Mega bosses. So now, mega bosses give orcs +1 to hit. It's no longer just brutes; it's orcs. That's always awesome. Let's see here. Making sure that we talked about the Mighty Destroyer. All right, so let's talk about our boys. So I enjoyed this, but the upkeep again, there's a lot of upkeep. I don't know. So before our boys, let me just grab a profile. Where did I put my profile at? So basically, they could be outfitted in all kinds of different ways. So I've got an our boy here with a big axe and a smasher, a big chopper and a smasher. I've got one with a hacka or a chopper and a smasher. I got one with just a big chopper. There's some with shields. There's some with banners and a lot of stuff. So, and you could, each individual could be equipped differently. Of course, you have a drummer, and then you've got the standard barriers, which everybody could be a standard barrier. So it's kind of interesting. We'll see how that works. But what they did now is they say, who cares how they're outfitted? We want you to make them look different. But what we're going to do for these models is they're going to give them, everybody gets 2 attacks. They always hit on a 3. They always wound on a 3. They have a -1, 1 damage. That's it. Those are our boys. So I was kind of worried about that. But they realize our boys are a very unique unit and want them to be unique. So don't worry about how you outfitted your our boys. That doesn't matter because the profile is what it is. So I don't know if they're going to have the shields. I don't know if they're going to have the drummers or the standard barriers. I don't know any of that. Sorry, Chanter is +1 damage. Sorry. Up here, I wanted to say +1 attack, but I was reading something else. So that's my bad. Yeah, +1 damage instead of +1 attack. But there is. Let me find it. There was something. I don't remember, but there was something that gives him a damage too. But I know what it is. Never mind. It's not the Chanter, but yeah, +1 or +1 damage from the Chanter, not +1 attack, and he's 110 points now. So what else? Let's go to. I think that's it. So Brute Fist. So Brute Fist has changed. I'm not sure if I like it because I like the D6 movement instead of, for the most part, I'm all about moving across the table. But now they've changed it. You still get to pick a brute boss, and he still gets a +2 to the wounds. Of course, that's still the same at 3 to 5 units. After a model from the unit with a battalion makes a charge move, you can pick one enemy unit within 1 inch of that model and roll a dice. On a 4-up, the enemy unit suffers 1 mortal wound. If the model's unit has more than 1 model, roll to determine if a model wound is inflicted each time a model from the unit completes a charge move. But do not allocate the mortal wounds unit all of the models in the unit have moved. So, brutes charge, do some mortal wounds. I think it's nifty. I'll have to see how that plays out. I don't know how much that battalion is. It's 120. So Brute Fist is 120. The one question people are asking is with the brutes is the choppa or the pincher and the smash, the claw and the smasher still combo, or do they streamline all that and take all that away? Some people say that it's gone. Some people say that who knows. We'll find out more throughout the week probably. Um, let's see here. So Claw Club, 4 attacks and four to hit, 3 to wound, -1/2 damage. Looks like someone already got all the profiles that I couldn't find. Okay, so the dual choppas haven't changed. Yeah. So Claw Club. So no longer. So it's 4 attacks, 4 to hits, 30 wounds, 1 damage, 2. I'm not very happy with the Claw. I love my Claw Club combo now. It feels like kind of eh. But hey, it is what it is. Let's see here. -1/2 damage. Oh, -1/2 damage. Hmm. Talk about armed to the teeth, which is probably going to be ability for the boys or something. I don't remember what it does. I talked about that. Um, they did talk about. So I'm gonna before I dive in a little bit more. People are like, "There's no endless spells," and I was kind of on the same page, but they went to say no endless spells, but they stopped themselves and said there is no endless spells in the book. They never said that there wasn't going to be an endless spells. Something I caught. So we don't know. Speculation, but they did catch themselves when they were saying it. So who knows, right? The Iron Jaws are supposed to be filled. They're the way he talked about them is they're supposed to be a really tanky army by design. Um, let's see here. Iron Cunning, we did that. Let's go into the Bone Splitters real quick. The way they want them to feel is the opposite, of course, of Iron Jaws. He did say about how it's going to be a Horde army. You're going to feel this very shamanistic type feel with a lot of magic. They keep their war paint. Obviously, we know about that. Um, we know about the tireless trackers. Uh, After armies are set up before the first battle round begins, half the Bone Splitter units and Bone Splitter's armies rounding up can move up to 5 inches. The Rippers, so they get some movement in the beginning. They get their war paint. So the Monster Hunters used to be a roll, not now it's you pick. So now you can pick these different abilities for your Bone Splitters when you need them. When you need them, you can use it. So I thought that was really cool. Spirit of the Beast. Do not take battle shocks for Bone Splitters units if an enemy monster were slain by wounds inflicted by the unit in the same turn. So, way to stop battle shock. Kill monster. Yay! Okay, let's talk about Strength of Purpose. The ethereal ability. This is a lot of people are talking about this. So, you take the Drakfoot, and basically you do not. Oh man, my nose is itchy today. You, in addition, an ability that negates wounds has no effect on wounds inflicted by Dark units. So basically, you don't get to feel no pains or death rattles or 3 up, 4 up, any of that. So the downside to this is there's only 3 units in the army that have Rend, and they even clarified it and said they did not touch any of their profiles. There's only the 3 units that have the Rend. So Bone Splitters, I don't think are getting a massive update when it comes to units, even in profiles. I could be wrong, but he had the book there. So the only 3 units that have any rand, of course, is the Savage Big Stabbers with a -2 rand. You got the Savage Big Boss with a -1 rand, and the Prophet with his staff with a -1 rand. Now those all could change, like maybe higher rank costs or whatever not. Um, but I think they're using that for, since we don't have rand, they want us to be able to hoard off a bunch of units to say 100 something shots of bows, which I doubt that's going to happen again. But shooting a unit with a bunch of shots with no rand is a better chance to hurt them now, because they're not like, oh, I got a 4 up, oh, now I got a 5 up, oh, now I got a 6 up with another 6 up, another 4 up, with a 3 up, with a 2 up, and you're just like, oh, great. So this is going to kind of help them out a little bit, do some more damage. I think it's going to be great. Bring It On is another good one. Enemy units within 12 inches of the friendly bone riz units at the start of the charge phase must attempt to charge and must make a charge move if it's possible for the to do so. In addition, any enemy unit within 3 inches of friendly bone riz cannot retreat. So basically, way to get suck things in, suck units into combat. Let's see here. Oh yeah, way good. Bring It On is really good. It's gonna be strong. I just think I think, I don't know. We'll see. I have a bad feeling about Bone Splitters. I think the army's great, but I don't think it's gonna be that great. And I think in combination with Iron Jaws, Bone Splitters are gonna be great. But we'll see. Again, seeing all this is still until I get the book in hand and cards and whatnot. Let's see here. Okay, so any hero from Iron Jaws, any hero can use Mighty Destroyer. It's no longer the boss. It's any hero can use command abilities or command traits, whatever they call them. Oh god, my nose. Oh god. Oh, excuse me, guys. Oh, let's see here. So let's talk about. I'm gonna talk about. We'll save Gortrak for last. Let's talk about the third army, the Waagghh clans. I think this is gonna be huge. This is what I'm looking at, and I can't wait for. When you can combine 2 different armies into one and have a nice, unique feel. I think it's gonna be great. You could take your elites for your Iron Jaws armies and fill the rest with cheap battle line from the Savage Orc side. So let's talk about this. Let's see here. Command abilities. Do they have it on here? Let me just see. There it is. Okay. The Big Waagh. You can use this command ability at the start of the combat phase if you have a Big Waagh army with at least 24 Waagh points. Alright, sorry about Waagh points. Waagh points, this is how you're going to get your Waagh points. D6 per hero phase. You're going to get 2 points per war chanter on the table. You're going to get some more points if Gordrak is on, extra points if Gordrak's on the table as your general. That's how you get your Waagh points. Now, you spend your Waagh points and things happen. So, we don't summon. We don't summon with points. So, that's going to be interesting. But I want to see how fast some of these points are. But the Big Waagh is 24 points. If you use the Big Waagh, and the general's on the battlefield, so there's a dual point for this. Everybody gets a +1 attack for your orc units at the end of the phase. You cannot use this command ability more than once, so it's 1 attack for your army for 24 points that you have to use. Then, at the end, you roll d6. On a roll of 1, you lose all the rest of your Waagh points. If you roll 2 to 5, you half it, rounding down, and on a 6, nothing happens. So, kind of cool. So here's some other abilities points cost. So if you spend 6 points, it's going to add bonuses to your casting, so like a plus something to cast. If you spend 8 points, it gives you a +1 to charge. If you spend 16, +1 to hit. Some of the things that we're talking about. So we know at least of 4 different abilities now that the Waagh points are going to be used for. Of course, then he's going to stack. So we'll see how that's going to work. So there's a lot of ways to get +1 to hit. There's a lot of ways to get movement. There's a lot of ways to, looks like, get some extra damage or attacks as well. Let's see here. They did talk about the Rogue Idol. The Rogue Idol did get updated. So that is a very awesome thing for everybody that runs Forge World units. I know 40K always talk about it, and they always complain that they don't get any updates on their armies for 40K. But Forge World has been very nice to us and has updated the Rogue Idol rules with keywords so we can use it. And I can't wait to see what kind of abilities it updated, if anything. See, Bone Splitters are going to be lots of magic. So let's talk about Gordrak. Okay, Gordrak was awesome. Awesome model. He used to be up there with some of these other characters, but he's never felt that way. Gordrak, I'm still working on him. He's got 2 axes. So, right now, he found something in the Storm Vault, and people are asking, like, oh, is there new rules for him with what he found? And no. Whatever he found in the Storm Vault is not carried over in his profile. So he's just basically, the Gordrak without the Storm Vault item. What they did do to him, though, let's see here, Haka, let's see, I think his 1 axe has 9 attacks, hits on 3s, wounds on 3s, -2, 2 damage. His other axe is 5 attacks, 2s hits, 3s to wound, -1, D3 damage. So that's very, very, very powerful. Plus the Maw Crusher on top of that. I think you'll see him being used a lot more, I hope. The guy was asking, someone asked him about a Maw Crusher army. He says, effectively, you can fit 3 Maw Crushers into your army if you really wanted to make sure you have other stuff to fulfill. I might look into that, having 3 Maw Crushers around the table, kind of fun. But so like Gordrak though, his axes are special though. Let's see here. Smasha is the one that's against heroes, and Cunnin is the one against wizards. So we'll see. We'll see how effective it is, especially point cost. It's changed. Let's see. Voice of Gork is still a thing. I think they've changed it though. It's no longer the +2 attacks and all that stuff. I think it's +1 to hit and something else when he's for orcs or something like that. Let's see, am I missing anything else? We got Smash 'em and Bash 'em. So those are a couple more points. 16 points Smash 'em. That's the +1 to hit. And then at 20 points, you get a +1 to wound if you spend 20 points. Yeah, I can't wait to see his update. He was one of the characters that I was really disappointed that he was not point effectively. But so what was I about points? Okay, so War Channel went up from 80 to 110. Brutes went from, how much were Brutes? So Brutes are right now what, 140? Or no, I think they're 160. Let's see here. I don't remember. It's been a while. 140. But let me just check something here real quick. So they're 140. I know they went. I think it went up from the last one. I can't remember off the top of my head. Mega Boss, I think, went up 10 points. So the Mega Boss now is 460. Oh wait, on foot. Mega Boss on foot. Sorry, he's 150, and then the Maw Crushers are up 40 points, so 460. Okay, there we go. Let's see. Maw Crushers are 15 wounds each now. War Chanters is still 6. Mega Boss of foot 7. Brutes are all still 3. So it's gonna be interesting. I think you're gonna see a lot of brute lists. You're not gonna see a lot of boys lists unless we get the boys profile and they get some cool stuff. Um, I think you're gonna see a lot of characters on the table now. One to generate wall points. I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. War Chanters are actually better than they were. Hmm. And then Savage Orcs are still good against monsters, of course. That's their whole gimmick. Monsters. Monsters, monsters, monsters. Um, so yeah, just to give you guys a heads up, he did talk about how long it takes him to. When did they start thinking about a book? When did they start working on a book? And he did say about 18 months out, they start thinking about it, what they're gonna do, and then about the 1 year um, mark out from like whatever they're gonna say, hey, we're gonna release this next January. A year out from then, like that's when they start working on it. But it takes about a year to get a book out, and about an extra 18. It's 18 months between thinking about it and completing it. Any battle tome. So if we hear Slaves of Darkness, we heard it. I know we heard it. I think I heard a little bit about that at the beginning of the year. So they were just probably thinking about doing it, or there was rumors about it happening. Whenever we start getting rumors, um, he said anywhere between that first advice of thinking what they're going to do, so 18 months from then, or he did say when they're about 6 months out, they usually start hinting things. So when you start picking up one or the other, if you hear about an army, a new army, it's either just it's going to take a while, next year or who knows when, or it's about 6 months out. It's either or. Um, Something else I'm excited for is the pocketbook, the new General's Ham, or we'll call it the new rule book for Age of Sigmar. It has all battle plans in it. 31 battle plans. Has all the updated rules from the erratas. Has all the artifacts in it. Um, I think it's gonna be amazing. So I don't have to tote around all these books. It's one small book with everything in it. I think it's gonna be amazing. I'm gonna get one myself. Um, but yeah, I think Iron Jaws is gonna be great. I think Iron Jaws is gonna be the new elite army. I believe it's going to take time to figure out how to play them because they're not going to be um, a conventional army to play like we used to be. I think with the whole big wall, or depending on how people play it. So if you play just Iron Jaws, there's different flavors of Iron Jaws. If you play Bone Splitters, there's going to be different flavors of Bone Splitters. If you do the big wall, which I'm looking at doing because of the models I own, um, the way you play, it's going to be really different. I'm thinking doing a couple of really cool things. Uh, is basically the big wall for me is I want to see how many units I can put on the table. I mean, yeah, the brutes are great, pigs are cool, you know, but if I can have 3 units of 10-man boys, our boys, and then have, I don't know, two 30-man blocks of savage boys, a couple war dogs, like piggies and mounts that just like fill up the table with orcs, it'd be great. Um, I think it's gonna be amazing. I think it's a good way of I think it's gonna be a good feel, a new feel to it. Thanks, man. I'm glad you guys are on. Appreciate it. Like I said, show I'm probably I don't know if I'm gonna do it once a month, or maybe every other week or whatnot. Haven't decided yet. But anything for Iron Jaws? I know you're kind of late. Any questions or anything? If while I'm transitioning, and then we'll start. Let's talk about some Age of Sigmar. I haven't been tracking as much as probably a lot of other people, but let's just bring it up on the website, and we'll just kind of talk about it because they did add some cool things, um, like this picture coming up with the you get a battle line and you get a battle line and we all get battle line. We'll pull that picture up real quick and I'll talk about that in a second. Um, but I think it's gonna take a while for Iron Jaws to find a place in the meta. Um, it's gonna take because there's so many variations. Just like kind of like with Sylvaneth right now, I think there's a couple good variations that people are playing. I think Corn was kind of in the same boat. I think there's different variations, and then there's the key 2 to 3 variations that do very very well. Um, Nurgle I think is in the same boat. They have a couple variations. Most of the demons have variation. I think Slanesh is kind of set to 1, maybe 2. What else we got here? Daughters of Cain, it's 1 to 2, I believe, variations. Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see how the Iron Jaws, or we'll see how the Orcs do. The book comes out. Um, I'll have the book. I'll have the cards in pre. Well, I usually get my books digitally. Um, oh yeah, I agree. Play style is gonna be completely different, but I think it's my style play. Like I said, I'm looking at a horde army, and a lot of people are gonna look at elite armies. I think if I do it right, I think a horde army is gonna work real well, especially with a combination of both between both splitters and our boys with maybe some shooters. I have to buy some shooters. I don't have any shooters. I wasn't a big fan of the whole cut and ruck thing. I thought it was kind of cheesy. So I don't like doing the cheesy things if I can help it. Um, but I think so you got the stabbers. Big stabbers. Get it. I gotta get a couple more of these guys. Of course, you got the prophet. Then you've got the savage boss. I got another one I gotta put together. I need a couple more war docs. This one is a metal war doc, so he's not even fine cast. He's actually metal. God, my nose is just driving me nuts right now. Oh, sorry. So I think it's gonna be great. I want to see how the casting is because my design at first was if they're messing with all my spells and stuff, I want to do a casting orc army. That's what I really want to do, and I think it's still plausible. I just think the way I have to do it is going to be very different and very strategic, but I think it's going to work. So let's move on to Age of Sigmar. There was no prayers. Like I said, there was no prayers. There was no spells. They talked about spell updates. No prayers. Like there's no such thing as a prayer so far. Most of them are just abilities. It's not like like that's what's kind of weird. I can't wait to see the book. They didn't talk about any prayers. Well, we'll see. I mean, maybe for the Savage Orcs or the Bone Split Orcs, but for like the War Chanter, it's like his innate ability, and then he gets abilities based thing off of, I'm guessing, off of the sub factions or whatever not. So, because the one ability he gets right off the bat, for the Iron Suns, is on a 4-up pick. So, War Beat, they don't even call it really a prayer. It's just an ability. I mean, it acts like a prayer, I guess, but to me, it's more of ability. It's not even like he's not even. I don't know. We'll have to see what his profile says because he's not a caster. He's not a prayer. He's not a priest. He's nothing like that. So I want to see what they add in his war profile. Is what his keywords, I should say. So like the Wardock for Bone Splitter, he's a wizard, but all of his are just abilities. They're dances. They're not even like, yeah. So wizard. Oh god, my nose. And the War Chanter is, don't tell me I threw away his card. It was so bad. No, he's right there. So totem. Totem is his keyword. Totem War Chanter. So we'll see. To me, it just, I don't know. On a 4-up, something happens, which is cool. But when I think of prayers, I think of like, I'm gonna prayer. You get this, and you get this, and you get this bonus, and you get this bonus, and you get a plus attack, and you get a freaking like feel no pain, and like that. Those are the prayers I'm used to seeing. I'm not used to seeing, oh hey, I'm gonna on a 4-up, you get to charge farther. I'm like, okay, like give me better immunity battle shot, give me mortal wound span, give me something. So I really don't see it as a thing. You might have to turn it on your side on the notifications. Sometimes it's delayed. Let's see, we got that. Let's see here. So, over here on this other beautiful page of mine here, we've got all these units for Cities of Sigmar. You've got, your Night Elves, Wood Elves, Free People, newer Dispossessed or Dwarfs. You've got the, you got everything, all the new stuff of the old stuff. I call it's the newer of the old. That's what I call it. Seeing the Hydras and all this stuff down here, and that's all can be battle line. It can be great. Some really cool paint schemes. That's what I'm kind of cool to see. Combinations. I think the Cities of Sigmar book is going to really tweak the meta. I mean, Halo Bullets. I just think about that in Christ sometimes because there's a lot of good shooting. After this unit makes a charge move, you can shoot with any braces of pistols it disarms with. So it's like that's gonna get shot in the face. It's gonna hurt. Then you got all the newer model dwarfs. That's gonna be an awesome freaking little thing going on. Of course, they can use all the endless spells, which is really cool because all the endless spells they get to use, they automatically get the keyword like they're fighting on the planet there. So they always get the bonus. Let's see here. One of my favorite models. I like the Griffin. I like the two-headed Griffin one better, I think, but that's an awesome model right there. Oh yeah. Oh god, my nose. Something just messed with my nose. Someone's thinking about me today. I don't know who it is. Whoever it is, stop thinking about me. My nose is not happy. Let me find. They did something today about the realms, and I just gotta find it now. Earlier they talked about the realms, and they talked about who was there. Let's see if I can find it real quick. Pull this over. Let's go here. Let's do a search. Age of Sigmar. We'll click on there. We're going to click on, where is it? Just give me 1 second. They did talk, yeah, there it is. That's what I want to see. It's a primer. That's it. All right, here we go. So so they at least went in depth and talked about who was where, what was what. So like Hammer Hall, they did talk about, this the main city. They talked about what kind of factions are going to be in there. Of course, you have this nice little steam tank with some awesome dwarfs there. Lots of shooty right there. lots of shit. You got a hammer right here. You got a looks like a hammer's in the picture. There's a instrument guy there. Bunch of shots. Then you have, of course, you got the Living City, and you've got the Stormcast. The best thing too, I like it when they bring in the fluff of things, and they talk about how Alariel forgave the Wanderers for the retreat from Garen during the Age of Chaos, and grace to grant them El Sanctuary in the outer quarters. Just like, hey, you guys can come back and hang out with us, but you're restricted to the outside. You can't come in the inside. You're not part of the cool people's clubs. I thought that was kind of interesting. So that's cool. We got some, the Wanderers in there. The Greywater Fastness. Dispossessed. Guildmasters, Ironweld. So, yeah, basically that's where you're going to see a lot of your artillery armies, shooty armies. You got the place with the Phoenix Temple. So, I think that's a great piece of artwork right there as well. I like it. Got some Stormcast sitting out there in mounts. Yeah, this is going to be exciting to see some old models get redone into the new. And then you got Anvil Guard, all the old Dark Elves slash Good Elves. I guess now, right? The Good Elves are the new Dark Elves are the Good Elves, right? The Corsairs. Yeah, but see what's cool about this too is this guy's standard barrier with the flag and the squig thing on top. This is gonna be great to see people paint these armies. Hollow Harp. More dwarfs, it looks like. Yeah, this is one of my favorite models too. Like, very amazing. One of these days, I'll probably try to pick up one of these models if I can, but I think they're just great. Very dynamic. The Tempest Eye. So this is like the KOs and dwarfs sitting, the trading area. Like, that is a beautiful Tempest Eye paint job for the dwarfs. I like it. I think this would be a great book. Going to bring flavor into the meta, I believe. I believe it's going to provide people options, because a lot of people like, okay, so in 40K people played soup, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and then they're like, oh, if I combine all of this and that together, I get this, and I'm always going to win. I know Age of Sigmar doesn't, I don't think it is that way, in my opinion. So I think it's going to be a great book to put things together and play the way you want to play with what you own, and have some good rules behind it. Let's see here. Anything else? I think all we're waiting now really is the Ogre book for the year. Hopefully it comes out within the year. I'm pretty sure it will, but hey, you never know. Man. But other than that, I have nothing else for you. I just can't wait to see the book. I can't wait to see stat lines. I can't wait to see. Oh yeah, the new Death Army. Oh yeah. Well, the new Death Army, I think are great models. I have a bad feeling about the new Death Army, but I'm not going to share that because I'm not going to be a naysayer on this one. I think the models are great. They're gorgeous looking models. The Catapult is probably my favorite model, which I'll probably end up owning just to have painted up. Um, the boss, the main guy, the matriarch, it's like a boss fight, like an MMO boss fight, where you have a bunch of little small bosses you have to fight before you can fight him. I think it's gonna be great. Um, General Grievous guys, the elites for General Grievous bone guys are great. Um, and the troops look good. I think the army aesthetically looks amazing. Don't get me wrong. I won't be surprised if I end up picking up some myself just to have them paint. I don't know. I mean, I think they're gorgeous looking. How they're gonna do on the tabletop, who knows? Another death. You never know. You know, it's like you get a death, and you get a death, and you get death, and here, death, have all this new stuff, have all this access to everything, have fun, have a nice day, right? Um, which is really weird for the death armies is they have access to every so much, and they're not. Their performance level is like high mid tier depending on what you pick. Um, overall, so so I think it's gonna be interesting to see how they play out. Um, I'm waiting for the ogres, more destruction, please. And then we'll talk about the Goblin Wolfriders real quick before we end the stream for Chasefire. So those are new sculpts of Goblin Wolfriders, but Goblin Wolfriders used to exist back in the day as Gitmob. It is a possibility they might be bringing back a Gitmob style army. It probably won't be old models, it'll probably be something new with some old, but it is a possibility we'll be bringing them back. But we will see. I thought that was great. The new elf people, uh, beast elves, I call them, whatever you want to call them. I forget what their names are. I think the models look great. I think they're going to be interesting when their book comes out. Um, I think it's a whole new faction. Is it Kuranathi? Kuranath? Kuranuth? Is it like Kuranoth hunters from like Sylvaneth? So Kuranoth isn't that the god or the guy that they worship, or whatever? Kuranoth, Kuranathi, or I don't know how you say it. Yeah. Um, yeah, I think it'll be great. I'm all about new stuff in the Age of Sigmar. I just hope he did talk about playtesting. They do playtest armies. They do pass the books around. They do get criticism on armies and what's good, what's not, and all that stuff. So that does happen. They verified it today. Now, my only worry, and this is always a worry because it's Age of Sigmar and 40k does it, and it's different. UK versus any other country, we all play differently when it comes to our tabletop wargaming games. We fortunately have a really amazing Age of Sigmar community. My friend, and he's part of the council now, the Hero 7, which is I'm gonna name drop him, and I don't care. He can hate me later. This is my buddy Jeff. Um, his community, our community down here. We've got the Slambo community. We've got the Citadel Defenders, the Defenders community. Um, I think between the four of our communities here in Texas, between the four cities, we have a very good family, friend atmosphere. And it's. I think it's great. There's a lot of banter. I hope there's a lot of fun between all of us. I believe, and it's good for the hobby. But the problem being though too, and I know Mr. Father Gabe a couple weeks back talked about how Age of Sigmar might be going to looking like 40k and some aspects, and looking at the meta, looking at tournaments, looking at organizations, looking at what's going on the East Coast, Central, West, all that stuff. Every tournament, unless it's designed to always be ran the same missions, same armies, or same missions, objectives, you're going to see the same armies. You're going to see who's winning, who's not. Okay, so I know Nova, there was a lot of Slanesh that were in the top 10. There was a lot of those types of armies. But then you look at the mission pack, you look at the objectives, you look at anything. All those are, they're all part of the deciding factor. Does that area have a very high saturation with Slanesh? Was the missions and the objectives tailored for Slanesh? Um, uh, like it's very very interesting. Then you look at our big GTs just in Texas. I think Texas is that's our own playing field. I believe we have four GTs, one in each city. We have a Masters coming up in January. It's top 20 of Texas plus a dual uh, team tournament as well. And the armies are different because I believe this is just my fair opinion, and you don't have to agree with me. Is I believe we do a good job in our GTS as organizers, um, and try to make sure every packet is different. Every missions, as much as possible, are what somewhat's different. The way you score points are different, and it changes the people's armies. It changes the outcome. Like Jeff plays corn. He's an amazing corn player. He knows his stuff, and one GT he could place last. Next GT he places top 10. The next one he wins. The next one it's mid range, and he's not changing anything in his army. The objectives and the scenarios change, so it could affect the way he plays his army. It could help him. It could hurt him. Who knows? But that's why we have a I think, a bigger variation of armies that are doing well. And then you look at the West Coast. So everything is a factor. Dice rolls, mission packs, scenarios, saturation of armies. All those have an impact to see what's on top 10. I know 40K is not like that. 40K right now with the ITC, I know they're trying to fix that and work around that, and I'm not talking bad about them, but a lot of people run the same missions over and over again, and all these GTs, all these places have the same things going on over and over again. And you see the same armies always winning, saturated, because that's the only thing that works. So hopefully 40K fixes that. The community as a whole fixes that because it's a missed opportunity. Um, so let's see, Jeff, what are you bringing up? So crazy. Look at the top 10 best sellers on GW under AOS. Let me see. Let's bring it up. Let's do it. Let's see. Let's visit us on. Let's do shop online, Games Workshop. Let's see here. Bestsellers, I'm going to call dwarfs. Just because I'm just being honored here. Let's see. Easy to build bestsellers, top 10. Alright, so let's see here. Storm Vermin, not surprised. The Citadel, I have one. I still need to build it. Not surprised. It's a great piece of scenery. Start collecting Stormcast, Thunderstrike Blood. That's a good box. I could see that. Value. Oh, not elves. That's not surprising. Mallwood, not surprising. Got free guilds. Oh yes. Oh yes. Oh yes. So, Cities of Sigmar. Cities of Sigmar. Cities of Sigmar. Cities of Sigmar. And these guys are for Warcry. Oh, I almost forgot about Warcry. Okay. Try not to make the stream longer. Alright, I am heavily invested in Warcry. Warcry is an amazing game. I have everything for Warcry. All the boxes of train, all the models, everything. Get a chance, go to your local store. Try some Warcry. Play test it, do whatever you need to do. I think it's a good way to solve games that so you don't have to get into the bigger games if you don't like to. Warcry is very amazing, very small, quick games, and very random-ish in so many aspects is that there's no real meta per se if you're not running a tournament style army or tournament play. If you're just doing open play, you might get dinged on the way the mission's set up or the deployment or any of that, and it's just the way it is, and your game can be over within like 30 minutes. Then you flip the next kind of card, set up your new train, and all of a sudden, like, oh gosh, I'm going to win this because it's geared toward me. And then one game, it's going to take a while because you're both fighting for whatever you're fighting for. So, very great, very great game. Let's see, Warcry, Gordrak. Let's see, anything else? Let's see. I think that's all I got. So, for all you watching out there, and Patreon supports, or anybody you know, if you have friends that have any clue or no clue, or want some kind of clue, or just want to come hang out, BS, talk Age of Sigmar. I guess my Friend there, Jeff, has a lot more info half the time than I do. It looks like, so I might have to start like bugging him. Once we figure out how to get people, more and more people on here, we're working on that slowly. I'm working on some other aspects of doing some things, and I don't know, maybe a podcast. We're actually looking at doing a podcast, looking at equipment right now for us down here. There is a possibility that FMP, we will be live streaming the Texas Masters. So look for that if everything works out right, because we'll have people at LVO and myself down here. We'll see how that goes. As long as I have everything I need, I should be able to live stream that. Also, look forward to next year's circuit for Masters. I mean, we have Slambo coming up in a couple weeks, and then after that, it's the season's pretty much over until February, because the end of January is when the Masters happen, and then February 1st starts the whole new season. So a lot of tournaments going to be going on. GTs, I know GTs are moving dates around for Age of Sigmar for the Masters. I know we've got a new council design for the Masters for next year. We've got some new people, some same people, or old people are still there. Some new people are come on board. We have a lot of cool things going on, especially in Texas, but really cool things going in Age of Sigmar. So keep your heads up. Don't get down. Have fun. Remember, it's a community. Communities have a great time. They're going to have a great time. If it's all about winning to you, I'm not saying you should not want to win, but if that's all that matters is winning, you might want to look and reconsider your options. Evaluate yourself. Look about who you hang out with. I lose a lot of my games, but I have a fun time doing it. I make memories. It's all about making memories and having fun, man. Playing a tabletop game, playing with stuff that you paint, put together in a world of your world. You make it what it is. Okay, so that being said, I thank everybody that's on, everybody that's watched, everybody that's came through. Please tell your friends, tell your family, come hit subscribe, come hang out. I will give you updates on my next Age of Sigmar show. But this is Ski with FNP, and I appreciate y'all out there. Thank you so much. You guys have a great one. Live.